All right, let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Homeschool Dad recording live from a shelter in Albuquerque for families. You might see my little one back there, my 8-year old. He's back there having his dinner right now. Um, we got the NBA game on television, and I just felt compelled to come on and speak about my situation, which is kind of unique in a way, other than what I'm seeing on other YouTube channels in regards to how individuals are navigating homelessness and reasons why they're homeless. In my situation, I don't have issues of financial mismanagement or a drug habit or a significant other that has, kicked me out of a situation where uh, we had to be out on the street. Uh, so I have my own niche in regards to a homelessness story. And once again, I would like to say, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. And don't be shy to, participate in even speaking on your experience as someone or a family that's being homeless, or how your homeless situation is going. Is it working in your behalf, or is it working against you? Uh, my situation is that although I have uh, been in the housing voucher program for uh, 18 years, uh, I had to get into the housing voucher agencies and deal with them because of a disability, a surgery I had back in 2006, and that surgery pretty much had permanently uh, put me in a place where I thought I would be disabled. Uh, Although I am disabled, according to Social Security, uh, I'm not disabled in my mindset. My mindset has changed in regards to um, the surgery that I had, and knowing now that I have healed from the virus that had caused me to have the surgery. Um, at the time, uh, back in 2006, I was told that I needed to have the surgery or I was going to die. So uh, I opted to have the surgery because I wanted to be here for my family. But shortly after that, I healed um, from the virus that I had that was causing me to have spells of passing out and heart palpitations. But 3 months later, I healed. But it was too late. I had been implanted with a defibrillator and pacemaker, and instead of the doctors waiting to see if I would recover from the virus that uh, no one could find out what that virus was called or anything. They opted to implant me because I was uneducated. I didn't do any research. I didn't have any family here to aid in uh, the process of me making a decision or not whether I should have the device or not. So I'm homeless because of a disability. I ended up losing the ability to work. I worked every day. And, my significant other, she worked every day, and we had a newborn, arriving on the way. And pretty much after the surgery, I was a stay-at-home dad, and she had to work. That didn't last long. We couldn't afford the place that we were staying in. So I signed up for with the housing voucher agency, and that agency uh, helped us a lot. And like anyone, going through homelessness and after staying with, one of her friends for about, a couple of months, um, anyone would be proud to, uh, anyone would be proud to, you know, get a place and get settled into their own situation. So, um, like I said, I was happy to get into a place, and we got into several places. I moved into an apartment, and maybe about 9 months later, we moved into a three-bedroom home. It had a two-car garage, beautiful backyard with a shed, apple trees, and things were going pretty good. But there were some situations and uh, that came up that I was unaware of because a lot of times when you're in the housing agencies, you they don't disseminate a lot of the information that you should have, and um, certain documents, contracts, and policies and regulations, and and even in most cases, like for instance, we lived in a home, so we were supposed to get um, certain installment payments for utilities and other things. So I was in that home for a couple of years, almost 3 years, until I got behind in my rent. I believe the situation was I was behind in my rent, $120. I was behind in my rent, and I wrote to the housing agency uh, for them request to uh, a reasonable accommodations request due to hardship for certain reasons, and I was granted the hardship. Although the housing agency worked with me, the landlord who owned the property and the housing agency were paying rent to that agency. Uh, they didn't want to, for some reason, grant me a 2 week extension on paying that rent. And so things became complicated and they moved forward with an eviction. After they moved forward with the eviction, the housing agency did not speak up for me or advocate for me and my family. And they could have easily done that. I mean, it was only $120 I was behind. So we went to court. I went to court and we got evicted. And I remember all too well that court hearing. It was, in the state of New Mexico, it's a landlord friendly state. So they were not trying to hear any of the evidence that I had in regards to, advocating for myself. And we ended up on the streets. Soon after uh, that happened, I found out in the news that the housing agency that was I had signed up with, they were under investigation by the Department of Justice for embezzlement. And prior to me getting evicted, I asked for my record, the record that the housing agency had on file for me, and I was able to obtain documents. And when I looked through those documents, I found out that they were supposed to give us housing allotments every month. And like I said, I was there for 3 years and I never received any of those housing allotments. Allotments that would have covered the water bill, uh, other bills that the electric bill and other bills. I can't remember all of them, but they were supposed to give me a monthly check for those bills, and I never received those uh, payments. And so I complained. I filed a complaint with the Fair Housing, and like I said, we were homeless. I ended up in a shelter. And another thing to keep in mind, if you're a male uh, and you have children, there's not a lot of shelters for men out here. And so, with children, and so we went to a shelter that tried to separate, you know, they tried to separate my family. I have three boys, and they tried to separate. Uh, they told me that, first of all, I homeschool my children, and I've been homeschooling them since 2006. And when I went into the situation with the shelter, they tried to uh, force me to send my children to public schools here. Now, I was totally against that because uh, Albuquerque, New Mexico is one of the worst, uh, has one of the worst public school systems in the country. And the fact that they, you know, tried to force me to, send them to school, and they use that as leverage because they have a special housing where, some families, they don't have to, spend the night in a gym on a pallet with, hundreds of other people. They had a program where we could obtain a room and have access to that room. But because I didn't want to cooperate with them in regards to how I was uh, schooling my children, I was denied access to that facility. And so I immediately packed our things, and uh, I was fortunate enough to have the funds to stay in an extended stay room. And we stayed in that room for 2 years until I found uh, another program, and I found that program in 2014. So the story that I told you about, I was just talking about, that happened in 2011 and 12. And 2012 is when we were, kicked out of the program for non-payment of rent. So not only did that housing agency not advocate for us, they sided with the management company, and then they terminated my housing voucher. And I found that to be quite odd. But because of the circumstances and the pressure and the anxiety, I never questioned it or thought to take a second look until I actually looked at that personal file and found out the information that I had just forementioned. Um, Moving forward in the story, in 2014, I found another housing voucher agency, and that housing voucher agency has recently terminated my housing voucher in 2023. I was in that program from 2014 until 2023 with I didn't have any non-compliances, and it was uh, odd because in uh, during during COVID, uh, in 2019, 2020, March of 2020, when COVID really kicked in, uh, that housing voucher agency was supposed to do housing quality inspections, and uh, I was so busy with me and my children, we were teaching ourselves how to program. We're self-taught developers. Uh, I homeschooled them, and I made that a part of our curriculum, teaching programming to them. And also, I completed a programming boot camp as a IoT engineer, which is the Internet of Things. It's dealing with hardware design and software design. Uh, you could basically say I have the ability to build smart devices, and I'm pretty sure you all, know, you know, have a smart device somewhere or know someone who does have a smart device. But during that time, we were so busy, spending 8 to 10 hours a day coding that when issues came up in my unit in regards to overflowing of sinks and ceilings leaking and electrical damages, I reached out to the management company at the time, but uh, if they didn't come and fix it, then I wasn't too worried about it. I just kind of let it, go, and continue, just to maintain the household as much as possible, and just I was concentrating on, bettering myself because I didn't want to be the type of individual. Although I'm in the housing voucher program, I didn't want that to be my life story. Uh, Prior to me, being implanted with a device, I was productive and I had a lot of dreams that I wanted to accomplish. But when you're, implanted with devices, that can cause you to be depressed. And I went through a moment where I was depressed and I lost all hope in regards to things that I wanted to accomplish. I thought that those things were unattainable, and so I went through uh, this phase that really uh, brought me down and, and, and really uh, brought my confidence down. But uh, once we were learning how to code, I started to regain my confidence, and I had this status as an engineer, and I was applying for different positions, and I wasn't too worried about so much the uh, housing voucher company and the landlord uh, when I notified them about them not coming in to fix anything, or I really didn't even notice that the housing voucher agency had stopped coming to do the housing inspections. So in 2023, uh, May is when COVID ended. June, I had a recertification. Um, all of a sudden, the housing voucher agency popped up, and they were trying to go forward with recertifying me and get me a new lease, and the housing inspections wasn't going well. And to make a long story short, if you watch, I'll leave a link to the video, or I have the video posted somewhere in this series where you can or, or tag it where you can actually watch that video to see what the details were of how uh, the agency treated me. And so uh, one of the main reasons I wanted to come on this evening was to inform you that if you're homeless and you're trying to find services, uh, there's a couple of things that you should be mindful of. If you have, do some research on the agency if you can. I know that you're probably going to be frantically trying to find a place and get housed, but you don't want to be housed in a situation with an agency that is going to exploit you because you're homeless just to get you into a unit that is substandard. And what I mean by substandard, it could have structural damage, it could have water damage, it could have high levels of mold. And, you know, um, housing agencies and then the tenant landlords, they don't disclose that information. So you could be grateful and happy that you're moving into a unit, but that unit uh, could be hazardous to your health and your children's health. And I'm pretty sure you don't want that to happen because that's what's happened to us. And then after me complaining about those hazardous substance issues, they retaliated against me and uh, took my housing voucher away. They terminated it. And so I had to become an advocate, a self advocate, and to the point where I had to become a pro se litigant and represent myself in court. And those uh, court issues are still pending on appeals. And I had to learn, the law and how to write motions and affidavits and pleadings and, make appearances in court against these highly paid attorneys that the agencies hire. And that's another story in itself, and I'll make a video on that. But the most important thing is when you're homeless and you're trying to find housing, do some research on the agency. They have this propaganda that because they may have been servicing the homeless for 20 years, 40 years, that that they're that means that they're a high quality agency. But uh, in my situation, I found that the agencies actually, uh, you know, get a lot of funding because of the uh, homeless demographic that they help when they're writing their grants, and they can pad those measurements and outcomes to make it seem like they have done a great thing uh, in servicing the homeless when all actuality those uh, false measurements and outcomes get them more grant monies. And so when I went to complain, I met with the CEO of the housing agency, and she told me straight up that you know uh, we were going to find a way to work on the issues that I was reporting to her because, she could get in a lot of trouble in her agencies and a lot of people could lose their jobs if that information got out. But what she didn't know that I was recording her. And that gave me a lot of leverage. The fact that I had an actual recording. She tried to make me feel bad because I was reporting on hazardous issues in my unit, but also she was trying to leverage the fact that if I said anything to fair housing or the city or whoever politicians that I complained to, that they could lose their $2 million funding, and that would then come back on me somehow. And so it was really a peculiar situation that I was in. Now I'm telling you, I didn't feel guilty about any of the things that she was telling me. I'm, all about my family and my family's safety. I don't didn't care about her $2 million contract or the employees that would lose their jobs. Um, I just wanted, her to follow through with what she said she would do, and that was relocate my family. But that never happened, and they retaliated and made up these stories and said that I was in non-compliance, and of course, her colleagues uh, and the people that oversee, those programs, fell in line with her agenda. And so uh, you have to be careful. You have to read the documentation, read the fine line. It's just like in anything uh, that we doing, read reading is and comprehending what you read is important, and it could actually save you from getting into a situation that you don't want to be in. And so, with that being said, uh, I appreciate your time, and I would appreciate you to, leave a comment and tell me express to me what you're going through with your housing situation, and whether or not you found that this information was valuable and helpful for you. Uh, I aim to continue to advocate for myself and advocate for others. Uh, but this is a two-way street, and so you would have to communicate and leave a comment in order for me to, you know, be able to continue to, feel like I'm adding value to someone's or a family's situation when it comes to dealing with, these housing rights and housing voucher agencies, because I'm not really speaking about the Section 8 program. I'm speaking about the non HUD tenant based rental agreement contracts that a lot of agencies are moving towards because uh, that contract isn't overseen by HUD and is pretty much a private contract between the nonprofits, and they can implement uh, their own policies and regulations and have uh, these hurdles or these disparities or this lack of due process and make it hard for you to have a proper grievance, a proper appeal. And so that's my main point in making these videos and making the public and the homeless population aware of what's going on. So this is the homeschool dev. Thank you for watching the video. Please support, hit the like button, subscribe, and till the next time, uh, I would like to say, keep on advocating for yourself and stay safe out there. Peace.